Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Platform API show and tell for the 29th of September. It has been another busy 2 weeks. So last time we talked about a lot of stuff. We talked about the Tenancy API, the Token Authorizer API, Academy Council Tax API, the API Hub work that we'd started, and data contracts. And a lot of that is actually still current work. But just because there's so much of it, we have been busy, as I say, and we will continue to be busy for the next few weeks. Not that that's any bad thing. First off, I'm going to hand off to Ben to talk about Academy.
Thank you very much. So the list endpoint is done. We just need to get we're just making a few last minute changes based on feedback from other members of the team. And then once the list endpoint is finished, we'll be moving on to search parameters and pagination, at which point all the details of all council taxpayers will be returned, as well as housing benefits recipients. And that's because council taxpayers aren't always in receipt of benefits, so it gives us a fuller view. So once the pagination and parameters are done, then we'll be the final step will be to integrate with single view.
Thank you, Ben. Next up, Hugh, contact details, please.
So we've been adding a new API endpoint to allow you to update the default contact method. So for a phone number to change the default phone number, that's currently in progress and should be done shortly. We're also working on some new endpoints. I'm not sure what stage those are right now, but that's also work that we're doing.
Should actually take a moment to embarrass you and welcome him to the team. This is his first show and tell with us. Hugh joined the council just a couple of weeks ago, and he's straight in at the deep end with the Platform API team. Mirella, please.
Thank you, and hello, everyone. So during the last 2 weeks, we've also done some further work on our Token Authorization API. We had to do some more refactoring and tidying up of the code. This did include adding some more custom error responses to make maintenance easier. This is because, for example, when you do a request to generate a token, you need to supply some IDs of lookup records. And if those IDs and lookup records do not exist, the code is going to fail. And we wanted to make sure that we are catching this particular type of failure and reflecting it in the feedback that the user will receive upon failure. So we can easily identify when it has occurred and to make maintenance easier, as we are expecting this API will be used more and more frequently now that we have integrated with all of our APIs. Further to this, we did build also pagination into our API endpoint that lists all tokens to make it compliant with our new API standards. I'd pass over to Rashmi, who will update you on our API Hub.
Thank you, Mirella. So as I mentioned last time, our API Hub is a self-serving portal for all APIs, and it's kind of a one-stop shop with all the documentation available to explain each API endpoint. We have so far 35 APIs developed in-house and with agency developers, so it's quite a lot to take in, and also there is a very high possibility that we might lose track of it, or people might not be able to know about them, or people might reduplicate it. It just gives you a lot of duplication in terms of efforts, the cost, and etc. So what we did, we had a good workshop to flesh out what it might look like and when the work might get done. So obviously for that, we need to understand the user journey right from start to end, and what are the things that we think is important for the first iteration. As I described earlier, the benefits are quite a lot with regards to the API Hub. Why? It prevents API duplication. It simplifies the developer onboarding. It can be internal or external. And also we say that it's a very, very simplified API information access for anybody, be it delivery manager, application management team, or external developers. They can just log in, register themselves, log in, and then find out the information quickly. They don't have to be dependent on the Hack IT developers. And also it helps to speed up the integration tasks. So Mirella and I, we have written down the project brief, and it's already shared with other members. and we have mapped out the user journey and also the needs which justify the need for the API Hub. And currently we are evaluating that how can we build an MVP to demonstrate the benefits of API Hub going forward. So that's something is being discussed at this stage. So thank you. I hand over
back to Mirella, I think.
Mirella, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so another data source that we are looking into is the Electoral Register one, and it's actually going to be the last new data source for this phase of the project. We wanted to tackle this data source as it contains information about every person in the borough over the age of 16, and we could use it in our higher level resident information API. So when we search for someone, if they are resident in Hackney, and even if they don't exist in our housing or social care system, we'd still get a match. It is a SQL database that the data source uses. However, it's a bit more tricky one. And that's partly due to the fact that we couldn't find a person that has perfectly clear understanding of how it works. The data and insight team have kindly shared a query that they're using to retrieve data from it, but that didn't answer all of the questions we have for this data source. For example, it appears that the source data tables have a prefix which reflects the year that the data is collected for, and implies that those source tables change on a yearly basis, which will be a bit more tricky when it comes to data migration, because although we could set up for now the same type of data migration process that we're using for other APIs, we would need to find a way to update those source tables on a yearly basis. And we want to automate that process as we don't want to create a dependency on someone doing it manually. This could be relatively straightforward or a bit more tricky depending on whether the schema changes on a yearly basis as well. So we have a few more unanswered questions that we are trying to find out. However, while trying to get that information, we did start the work. We've already done our designs, our API specifications. We've set up the infrastructure and cloud databases, and Reni and Emma are already working on the endpoints for this API.
Okay, so as we said, we're working on the last main data source for this phase of work. It feels like the end of an era. And I think Rashmi is going to discuss what we're doing now and next.
So thank you, Darren. So as Darren mentioned, it's the last of the phase. We're almost done with what we meant to do in this platform API project. However, we still have a few things that we have to do before we jump on to the next phase. The first part is obviously we have to finish up the academic council text and also finish up the electoral register contact information. The next plan of action is we'll be concentrating on its Authorisation API, which will be working with data and insight team. Also, we will be concentrating on the MVP as discussed earlier, and what we are suggesting the current platform API team, the developers, the internal development team, will be picking on the discovery of the next data domain. We have few options, but it's going to be most likely going to be payment agreement API, which is useful for manage areas project. There's few bits we have already discussed with that team, and we think it's a potential candidate for the next data domain that we would like to jump into and figure out. And also we are working very closely with the repairs team as well on their lines of APIs that they'll be working on. So yeah, there's quite a lot of things that we are going to be doing at the next phase. So thank you.
Yeah, just to stress, this is not in the next 2 weeks. This is definitely a new phase, although some of the work on the addresses API has already started, which shows that we're slightly ahead of the game. So that's the end of the slides. What questions has anyone got for us, please? Please don't be shy, because we've just bombarded you with a lot of information, and it would be good for us for some feedback or some challenge on what we're doing. Constructive challenge. Anyone? Either we have explained everything wonderfully, or we've explained nothing perfectly, so which means that nobody understands what we're doing, which would be a disaster on our side. So if there are no questions at this time, don't forget that you can always contact us on Slack, or there's the API discussion channel on Slack, or just reach out to one of the team. We're always very happy to talk. And yeah, if there's no questions right now, thank you very much for your time. This will be on YouTube in a few minutes if you'd like to share, and see you all in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.